Once again, the Supreme Court saved its worst decisions of the term to the end. And President Biden says that in at least one case, the court misinterpreted the Constitution. Welcome to MOMocrats Mama Chat, part of the Demcast family of podcasts. I'm Donna Schwartz Mills with Karoli and Aliza Worthington from crooksandliars.com. And gosh, I wish this was one of those pre-4th of July shows where we could just talk about, having fun and enjoying time with our family and
freedom. We talk about freedom.
How we have rights and stuff.
Yeah. Those things. Yeah. No, that's not going to happen. I mean, the only joy I took out of any of these Supreme Court decisions was the dissents. They were all magnificent. Ketanji Brown Jackson was amazing.
It's the ones earlier in the week and last week. The court did not completely destroy, our ability to run a fair election.
Right. That's true.
So I don't want to forget that, because it could have been even worse than what we've got.
Well, the price we paid for kind of not having our elections wrecked,
I know,
was to take away protections from LGBTQ people, to cancel student loan forgiveness,
right,
and to make sure that that people of color have a harder time getting into college. That was the price we paid to kind of sort of be able to vote fairly. And I guess I say that at least we can try to vote and get rid of these Republicans and do something. I mean, Biden was really good today when he talked about, the fact that Republicans were more than willing to do the PPP loan forgiveness, but God forbid for students, right? Then it's a whole new thing.
So glad he brought that up.
Yep.
Yeah.
So glad he brought that up.
That was great.
The fact that his program would cost half that of what PPP did.
Yeah, right. And they were thrilled to take advantage of it. They were just fine taking advantage of it to line their own pockets.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But they're
exactly.
not, God forbid people.
God forbid we give $10,000 to middle class and low income people so that they can pay for their education and be able to move up the ladder, be able to, think about buying a house, be able to start a family or a business as
not for you, only for me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, I thought his framing was beautiful. I mean, he basically said Republicans could, because he did try to get it passed. He tried to get it passed in the Congress and couldn't. And that's why they went to the, thanks Joe Manchin. Let's not talk about him, but, he and the Republicans. But anyway, I mean, he tried to get it done through Congress. He couldn't get it done through Congress, so he tried this way. And this way was a perfectly reasonable way to do it. And, but they killed it. So now he's moving to the next,
another legal,
next legal option, which is through a different law. And I didn't have time to read up on exactly what it is, but I can tell you, I saw some high points, which are they wouldn't charge interest, and they're basically cutting the loan payments from 10% of income to 5%. And then if you're below a certain level, it's 0%.
And that's what he's doing immediately. But the Higher Education Act that he's invoking now to give them the loan forgiveness does say that the Secretary of Education can just waive or cancel some loans depending on the situation. And the as he described it in his speech, this is just a more time-consuming way because they have to write some new rules, and those have to be vetted.
Right. So
we can vote these Republicans out, but we're stuck with this court.
Yes,
because for some reason I can't fathom Biden is unwilling to expand the court.
Well, he can't do it without the Congress. So we have to elect
I know, but he's got influence. I don't know why he wouldn't push for it. I don't get it.
Because he's an institutionalist, and he believes in the institution as it stands. And I mean, we knew that about him, right? We knew, I mean, just that this is the same way that he's, bipartisan on everything. He wants everything to be bipartisan. It's the same kind of cluster of beliefs that he has, that, that the court will just be fine the way it is and not be expanded. Although I will say this, I think that if he could, he would push for it. But the problem is the people that he pushes in that situation are also Democrats. In other words, if he could just push the Republicans on it, that would be one thing. But we have Manchin and Sinema sitting out there,
without bigger margins in the Senate and a House with a large enough margin. I mean,
right.
Politically for him,
which is why we need
a little upside in pushing for it. Now, if we were able to get him those margins, and it came from the Congress, and it was, framed administratively, because it makes sense to expand to 13 justices to correspond with the 13 districts,
13 circuits,
13 circuits. I think, he would definitely sign that. I do not think he would veto that. I think he would definitely sign it. And then he would get his 4 appointments.
And I think that you could even structure something like that to phase in the 4 appointments, because nobody would like it if Joe Biden got to pick 4 Supreme Court justices. But say you got to phase that in.
I would like it. Trump not to pick 3.
Let's pack the court.
I would like it too. I'm saying you wouldn't get everybody on board with an immediate 4 justice pick from Joe Biden. You just wouldn't.
Yeah.
But you could phase it in. You could say choose 2 and then 2 over the next 2 years or whatever, so that there's an election in there somewhere that means they fight it out.
That's probably how it would be done. But let me have my fantasy.
I know, really.
Okay.
Because
you can have your fantasy.
It's a more benign fantasy than to see Thomas and Alito die the same way Scalia did while they're millionaire benefactors.
It is more benign, but honestly, I mean, I have that fantasy.
I have that one too.
Natural causes, people. We're not talking about anything.
Right. We're not talking about anybody being offed here, just so we're clear.
Right.
Natural causes, but yeah. So, I mean, I have that same fantasy about.
Natural causes are okay with me. Or fast, painful natural causes are okay with me.
Yeah, whatever. Just as long as they're natural.
Yes.
So this week we got affirmative action killed. We got student loans killed. And the one that I am just mystified by is the website designer, the LGBT, the Christian website designer.
Just making crap up now.
How did that get to the Supreme Court?
Because this Supreme Court doesn't care about precedents.
How did it get there? This wasn't even a thing that happened. This was just a hypothetical.
Yeah.
But then Lori Smith signed an affidavit saying that she got a request to make a website by a gay guy who is also a web designer in San Francisco.
But he's not. He's not gay, and he's not. I mean, he didn't request it.
Right.
Why didn't anybody investigate that? This is the part I don't understand. How is it possible that this thing went all the way through court and no reporter, nobody actually questioned whether this guy was real?
Forget about reporter. What about the attorneys? Aren't the attorneys from the other side supposed to be looking into these things? Wouldn't you think?
You think.
I mean, they accepted a sworn affidavit as being legit, and she perjured herself. Basically, somebody ought to get her for perjury. Lying, by the way, is one of the things, the commandments you're not supposed to do. There's nothing that says thou shalt not make websites for gay people. There is, on the other hand, a thou shalt not lie command.
These rulings, it's not going to stop with it's okay to discriminate against.
Okay, yeah, of course.
And
no, of course
it's
not.
okay not to service LGBTQ plus people.
Right.
I mean, I can see
it's
signs on businesses saying no Jews, no,
right.
Irish,
Right. No black people. I
Right.
mean, I can see. I mean, they're the same protected class, the very same protected class as gay people are. And the logic or lack thereof in this ruling is just mind-boggling. I mean, the amount of twisting, I guess Alito wrote the opinion and that figures, right? the amount of mind fucking you have to get to. See, I said it first.
I'm surprised they didn't get Roberts to write it.
Yeah, that you have to get to follow this, but it goes something like this, that it's a violation of her speech rights because she has to use her hands and her head and her heart to come up with a product called a website, and that is all speech, and you can't force her to have that speech. So it's
what?
Yeah, that's basically the gist
How
of
is
this
that different
opinion.
from the cake situation?
It's not.
It is different, and the reason it's different from the cake situation is because of the way they went at it. They went at this one as a free speech issue instead. But honestly, it should. And the cake was not free speech. The cake was a violation of Colorado law because you can't discriminate. So it's different. Like that one. It's different, but it's not different. It's the same outcome, but it's actually, this one is worse because it's dealing with First Amendment rights. And I mean, what's to stop people now from saying, First Amendment rights apply to Jews or blacks or whatever, right? You can, I can't make a wedding website for black people because I don't believe that black people should marry, or a mixed race couple,
right.
Or, any of that.
That's next.
Right? It's absolute. Well, under this ruling, it would be absolutely permissible to do that and to put on your website that you're not going to do mixed race couples websites. I mean, the whole thing is just, it's inconceivable. I don't understand it.
Can it apply to hiring now?
They'll figure that one out, but this one would not apply to hiring. I'm not saying they won't find something that will, but I think this one won't do it.
The affirmative action one will get there because that one is saying that, a quota, diversity quota, bringing the people in on the basis of their race is not legal. Right. So I think that will totally be applied to hiring.
So I learned today, and I'm embarrassed I didn't know it to begin with, is that we have always been allowed to discriminate based on politics and based on, majority status, non-protected class. If I wanted to open a business and say no white people, I'm permitted to do that. If I wanted to open a business and say I'm not servicing anyone who wears a MAGA hat, or anybody I know voted Republican, I'm allowed to do that because Republicans are not a protected class. And white people are not protected class.
Well, maybe if we made white people a protected class, they'd stop fighting all the other protected classes.
But I didn't know that. So
I don't think I knew that in that context. I mean, I think I knew, also it has to be a public facing business. I mean, you can open lots of businesses that aren't public facing that are, that's even in the ruling where it talks about the fact that Banksy doesn't have to do any art he doesn't want to do because he doesn't have a public business that he's open to serve the general public.
Well, but I mean, same thing. If I wanted to, but I'm just talking about if I wanted to open a graphic design business or a bakery, and I decided that I didn't want to do business. I didn't want to do business with Republicans, anybody who voted for Trump, or any white people, because in my experience, I have learned that every single white person, no matter how much I love them, has racism in their hearts somewhere. So I have decided on my conscience will not allow me.
Well, I want only going before the Supreme Court on that one.
Yeah, I think you would too.
And they would rule against you.
Based on what?
Because the 6-3.
They'd figure it out.
We'll figure out ways. They have no problem contorting themselves. But
that's what I'm saying. Like, this is,
there's no consistency. I mean, they all lied when they said that they would respect precedent. They haven't done that. As someone on Twitter pointed out, that when you've got a court whose decisions change based upon the makeup of the court, it's no longer a court, but a legislature.
Yeah, exactly.
Good point. Well said.
Yeah. And that's
so it's a 6-person legislature, basically.
Unelected legislature.
Right.
Right. Yep. And that's pretty much what we have.
Presidents who lost the popular vote. Mostly.
Yeah. Presidents who lost the popular vote and who are under indictment. Federal and state.
Yeah. I know.
So anyway, the term ends, but they left us a parting gift in that they're going to look at a case where they will decide if it is legal to restrict domestic abusers from owning a gun.
Yeah. So everybody take a deep breath.
Next term?
I mean, so simple common sense tells you, yeah, you should restrict domestic violence people, domestic abusers from having guns. Who wants to take odds now that they say, no, that violates their Second Amendment rights. No can do.
Yeah, of course.
More about the Second Amendment and guns than they do about human women.
Yeah.
And
kids.
And kids.
Right. And kids and teachers and nurses and doctors and everybody that's touched by these mass shootings and these, with these weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah, first responders.
And honestly, this is why I have the fantasy of natural deaths for a couple of members of the Supreme Court, because as a Christian myself, I'm like, God cannot actually want us to live in a country where we can be shot to death by a miserable, abusive man, right? Because somebody up there worships guns. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me. It's just, ugh. And yet I'm steeling myself for it because I know it's coming. I don't
think there can be anyone left in this country whose lives will not be touched by gun violence, because even in states like California, which have good gun laws, you can't escape it.
Right. Yep. You can't get away from it.
We can't build a wall against all the red states that...
Don't think I haven't thought that thought too.
Yeah, really.
Walls don't work.
Right. They don't. They just find a way in. They burrow themselves in like little worms.
Which
whatever.
Is why,
there are good people in red states. Just
there are. We have friends and family in red states. We love them.
Same. Yeah. But I don't know what to say at this point. There's so much. It's still the fire hose that drives me crazy, right? It's the fire hose of bullshit all the time. For example, you hear it on, the LGBTQ hate is coming out like crazy, or stuff like drag. And, with drag is not even necessarily LGBTQ, it's entertainment. I just got in a big fight with somebody on Nextdoor about it. I got one of my posts deleted over it. I know, but I just get so tired of these righteous people saying, oh, drag, it's so bad. And I'm like, oh, really? Did you watch Tootsie? Did you watch Flip Wilson when you were a kid? Did you, it's been around forever. What is their problem?
As good family fun forever.
Right. And I basically told this woman
famous for getting into everybody's TV sets in the 50s wearing a dress. And it's
right.
I mean, Corporal Klinger. I mean,
right. Nash, all of it.
Yeah.
And the thing is that, and this is what I told her that got me deleted. I said, you know, I don't doubt your sincerity, but you've been ginned up by people with a political agenda who want you to be mad so you'll go vote. That's what this is about. They want you to hate so that you'll go vote.
Well, let's hope that everybody remembers these Supreme Court decisions and whatever fresh hell awaits us in 2024 when those elections come by.
Yeah.
Because we
all
are
I've got to say
over Dobbs, and now this just adds fuel to the fire.
You know, I was reading some of the comments on my post today about these decisions, and so many people are in the comments saying, you know, we told you if you just vote for the pantsuit lady in 2016, we could have avoided all this.
True.
And it's
saying she was, you know, Supreme Court was front and center.
She said that. She repeatedly
over and over.
Got from the media, emails.
Mm-hmm.
I fully blame the liberal media.
Yeah. The New York Times
obsessed with the fucking email story.
Right? Jake Tapper, I will never forgive Jake Tapper. I don't care how many people say he's doing this good or that good. I will never forgive Jake Tapper for live tweeting those fucking emails like they were actually interesting or had anything in them.
I don't care. Jake Tapper can go fuck himself. And the same, I'm sorry, with Chris Hayes. You know?
Oh, yeah, Chris Hayes was another one.
He was awful.
Yeah.
Awful.
Yeah.
Yep. So, you know, now we have what we have. And
so you couldn't vote for the email lady. So now
we have this evil Supreme Court.
You have this horrible Supreme Court. And I have to make this point again about drag. Is that, yes, some drag performers are, you know, cis straight people, cis straight men dressing like women. But the anti-trans legislation and the drag show hate is different, comes from a different place than people who were the people who grew up laughing at Flip Wilson and Bugs Bunny in a dress and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
See no inconsistency between finding humor in that and having an actual drag queen library hour in their hometown and being up in arms about it. They see no inconsistency between those two things because Flip Wilson was meant to be laughed at. Like Flip Wilson was dressed as a woman, as a comedy vehicle. Like, haha, how funny is it to see a man dressed like a woman? Drag performers or trans people aren't necessarily doing that. And
but most drag shows are campy and funny.
They're campy and funny, but they're not, you know, they're meant to be enjoyed. They're not meant to be, like, the point of it isn't, ha ha, oh my gosh, that's a man dressed like a woman, ha ha.
With them.
You know, it's campy, but it's musical, there's choreography, there's, you know, it's theater.
Yes.
It's legit theater. And it's not the same thing as like farce and the kind of thing that Flip Wilson did. And it's just like, I mean, it's just not the same thing.
Well,
and
neither is the anti-trans hate.
right.
That I mean that this is what I was trying to say is that all of the fear around drag shows and everything, whether you enjoyed those or not, all of the fear about today's drag shows are intended to conflate that with trans people, and it's not the same thing.
It's
It's
not the
not the
So
same thing.
and the whole reason for it is because in the early 2000s, by whipping them up about marriage equality, they were able to bring out their voters. And now
right,
that
and that's the key.
opinion is in favor of love is love, marriage equality, this is fine. The majority of Americans are very accepting. Um, that doesn't work anymore. So now they
Right.
are othering trans people and drag performers. But I think public opinion still, most people are okay,
Yeah.
live and let live. These are
Well, the majority. I don't know that we can say most, but I think we can say the majority of people
majority.
are in favor of, privacy rights
The,
and letting people choose for themselves with
Which
whom they
is
want to spend their
also
lives.
block thanks to Dobbs.
right.
We
Yeah.
don't have privacy rights anymore.
Right. So we don't, I mean, there's a lot of that, but I do think that you're right that at least the majority is at the very least in a live and let live space. They don't really want to crawl into people's bedrooms or anything like that. And by the way, that's why they have been,
Same with
the right
abortion.
wing has been so adamant about focusing on kids, on trans kids. That's why, because adults, they know they can, most people are going to go live and let live, get out, right? But the children, we must get the children. So, and an encouraging note to all of this before we move on to other things is that the courts are taking up parents' rights in favor of the parents of trans kids.
Thank God.
So
thank goodness.
Yeah, these
the
rules that are
no parent wakes up and says, I think I want to help my child transit to a different gender. No parent does that. What happens is their child suddenly stops eating, starts getting suicidal, withdraws within themselves. And I've had 3 friends with this situation happening with children who were very young. And then through therapy and talking with the child, they discover the child is in the wrong gender, and it takes the parent a long time to come around to that too. But all these parents want to do is keep their kids alive.
Right.
And you accept.
And gender affirming treatment is not, by the way, what the right wing wants to make it.
Right. It's not.
So it's
pediatricians will tell you gender affirming treatment with elementary school children or middle or even young middle school children involves the clothes that they wear or the kind of haircut they have, not top surgery or bottom surgery, and when you and puberty blockers, if you take puberty blockers when you approach that age, that's reversible. You can stop taking them if you decide that exploration has reached its its end, and it's not something that you have to commit to long term. And so for adolescents, they're not it's just not going to happen. And pediatricians are coming forward and saying this is not what you think it is.
Right.
Pediatricians treat kids until they're 21.
Right.
And
so all of this,
but the same people that'll say that will distrust pediatricians, and will will say that their kids should be able to have guns when they're 16. But
Well,
they
they're
don't
the
know
same
what they're
people
doing.
that don't want to vaccinate their kids either. So,
We'll say,
we
the
can
kids
go
are,
down that road.
yeah.
It's the same.
I mean, the hypocrisy
It's the same.
is I mean, it's just mind blowing.
So, why can we wrap this up maybe with what Charlotte Clymer wrote about this whole thing, right? Which is, I'm going to turn my head because I've got it on my other screen here. I need folks who are not LGBTQ to understand that today's ruling is not just about a website. It is a clear sign that Obergefell, same-sex marriage, and Bostock, LGBTQ employment protections, are in danger of being overturned. This is a devastating ruling. Please understand that.
There you go.
So, I think at this point, we need to be real out allies with people. It's and just defend them, right? I mean, I felt this ruling made me feel the same way I felt when Proposition 8 passed here in California, banning gay marriage. It was like, why? Why?
Yeah.
Stop it.
There's no reason to try to hurt other people like that.
Who is it hurting? Who is it hurting?
It doesn't hurt anybody.
Yeah.
And it's
It doesn't hurt anybody. And
it's not hurting them.
No, none of this is hurting them. They're fine. The kids are fine. It's our generation that needs to back the fuck off.
Yeah. The fucking priests need to back the fuck off. The church needs to back off. That's what needs to happen. Don't get me started.
Yeah, well, I think it's.
I just watched Shiny Happy People, and I'm like,
oh yeah, well,
I can't watch it.
Yeah, I don't blame you. It's awful. I mean, it's good, but it's hard to watch. We watched it too, and it's like, ugh. And we knew people who were in that.
Me too.
That whole thing. So yeah, no. But I guess. I mean, in the end, I guess voting is the most important thing, and we need to just keep pushing on that so that we can recover some of the ground that we're losing.
And vote for Democrats. Vote for real Democrats. Don't vote for fake third parties. Don't vote for Democrats.
No labels.
Don't vote for RFK Jr.
No. Don't vote for RFK. That guy's not a Democrat. He is a tool.
Yeah, serious tool.
No labels is a danger. We have to figure out how to destroy that thing.
Yeah.
So, can I change the subject to Russia for just a sec?
Sure,
since that's where we left off last week.
Last week talking about Russia.
I know. We're 33 minutes in. Let's talk about Russia.
And we still don't know what the hell is going on over there.
Yeah, I guess that was the point I wanted to make, is that it was like, I mean, at first I felt like on Saturday when I heard that Prigozhin turned back, that it was just a massive mindfuck, that it was all basically, some kind of distraction for something. I kind of abandoned that thinking after hearing some reports from things, but the whole thing is just bizarre. And the only thing I can say is whatever happened, Putin is not as strong today as he was the day before that happened.
I think Putin discovered that creating a whole mercenary global army, and so that you would have plausible deniability, probably isn't such a great idea when that army gets too powerful.
I would say that's a lesson learned. Yeah. Yeah. And then, but there's, I'm wondering, like, for example, how many generals are going to fall out of windows?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, they need to stay away from windows and have food tasters.
Food tasters.
Yeah, seriously.
Tasters. They got to be careful. Somebody has to wipe the doorknobs before they touch them.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah,
no kidding. Yeah.
And Prigozhin was never our friend, but it was very interesting to see what was going on.
It sure
It
was.
was interesting, but actually felt a little scared that he would end up prevailing and he'd be in charge of the nukes.
That
And
would be
he's
even
a
worse.
bad, evil man.
Yeah, that would be even worse.
There would have been no joy in seeing Putin overturned by that guy, right? So,
No, no, no. You know, you want stability over there, but you also want the Putin regime
Gone.
to be gone and replaced
yeah,
with something that would restore the promise that we all felt
yeah,
at the end
So,
of the Soviet Union.
so
yeah,
Prigozhin's in
agreed.
Belarus right now? Is that the
Apparently,
story?
Supposedly,
apparently,
That's
that's,
the
we
story.
yeah,
don't
that's the story.
we don't know.
But
And then
other generals of his have been arrested.
we don't know. Nobody's seen them.
I thought
They're
thought
trying to get the Wagner group folded into the Russian army, and that
Right.
Russia wants to take control of the Wagner units in Africa.
I'll
And
bet they do.
yeah, it's very profitable.
Yeah, I mean, Prigozhin was a billionaire many times over already, but I mean, I thought I had heard that Putin had arrested some of his generals.
Yes, we've heard that, but it hasn't been confirmed.
Right, okay.
It's like this big fat mystery what's actually going on.
Right, so nobody knows.
No.
Right. So, I don't know. I feel like that's like the whole world right now. Nobody knows. Everything is kind of upside down in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And I mean, but then you hear like there is some good news. Like, for example, inflation's going down.
Oh,
I mean,
economically.
I mean, our economy is growing by leaps and bounds. Apple crossed 3 trillion in market value today.
And they can afford to pay their writers. Damn it.
Yes.
Um,
Agreed.
If these Supreme Court decisions hadn't come down today the way they did, and we knew they were coming, we knew they weren't going to be good. But yesterday, earlier this week, Joe Biden gave his speech in Chicago touting Bidenomics, and it's the opposite of trickle down, and how his policies growing the economy from the middle out. And that was fantastic. His live interview with Nicole Wallace in the studio. I know they were saying, "Oh yeah, it's live and everything." It was still kind of shocking to see him sitting at the table with her.
Yeah.
And chatting away. And
he's so chill.
It is delightful to see him campaigning now in earnest and touting all the successes, because he has just been quietly working away. And the quietness is partly because the media would rather focus on Trump and the Republicans and the crazy. But his very, very competent, very diverse, very smart staff throughout the cabinet and the staffers and all
the whole administration.
Right. They are doing good work for us. And now you've got wages at this moment have risen higher than the inflation. They're above inflation right now. Inflation's gone down.
Right.
Globally, we are doing better than any other country. And at some point, you have to recognize that this is due to policy.
Yeah.
Absolutely is. And there's the other thing, Bloomberg reported on this last week, there's a factory building boom, a big boom going on in the US, right? To make things here instead of over there. And so that's all.
We talked about this a couple of weeks ago, that this boom in building manufacturing capacity is going to be a positive effect on our economy for the rest of the decade.
Oh yeah, for 10 years.
Oh, and beyond.
Yeah.
And then, infrastructure. I mean, the money from the IRA passed last year is now showing up. And you've got Republicans taking credit. Oh, You know?
Oh, yes.
And here.
Isn't broadband fabulous? We have all this broadband now. Nancy Mace and all these people, all these Republicans who voted against it.
Is like saying, well, I'm glad you're happy with it.
Or Biden, I'll see you at the groundbreaking. That was the best line ever.
That was Tommy Tuberville.
I'll see you there,
Yeah. No, that was awesome. That was the perfect comeback to all of that too, because it was so absurd.
They do it every time. They vote
They always do it.
Good for their constituents, and then try to take the credit. They did that during the Obama years too.
And they do it because they assume, rightly so, that their constituents don't know how they're voting.
Well, there's no local news anymore.
Yeah.
There's no.
So not only that, but it's like they think they're going to go out there and not get called out. Like Democrats are going to be so polite about it. It's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, we've in the past been so bad about it, but now, I mean, we don't have any fucks left to give.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
You voted against it. You voted against it.
And you should have seen Biden today talking about. I mean, we've already talked about this, but it's the same thing. The PPP loan. And after he got done with the student loan thing, a reporter had the actual nerve to ask him why he raised false hopes in students' hearts.
Who the hell was that person?
I don't know who it was, but boy, did he come. He spanked her hard. I'm just saying.
He was good.
I like feisty Biden. He's good.
Dark Brandon. Love Dark Brandon. And
absolutely. I should wear my Dark Brandon t-shirt one of these days, but
I just got aviator sunglasses. I just got new glasses, and I got prescription sunglasses, and I got aviators because to honor Biden, because I'm just like, man,
I know.
I'm in awe.
So who we haven't talked about, you guys? We haven't. It's like, holy moly. Like we're like 3/4 of the way in here and we haven't mentioned 45.
We haven't mentioned he who we hope we never have to name again, but we still do.
Well, no, we're going to have to name him again. We're going to have to.
But we have. This is good news.
I mean, tape, or do we want to talk about the indictments?
Oh God!
What do we want to talk about?
45. As many as 45 additional indictments coming down the road, perhaps.
It's
45 Yeah, well, many more. Yeah, that's on top of the ones he's already facing.
Right.
I didn't know it was up to 45 more. Okay, wow.
It's an estimate. We don't know.
But we're gonna find out.
It's delicious.
But
superseding indictments.
Yes.
So, but the big one was the recording that came out. So, and I'm just going to tell you up front that I'm skeptical that this recording was leaked by anyone else other than Trump. I think it came out so that he could spin it his way. But that's me.
It makes him look good.
He thinks that.
Yeah,
he thinks it makes him look good.
He makes these perfect phone calls.
Yeah.
Yes,
and the perfect phone calls, and this makes him look good. And he is essentially confessing to everything he's been accused of. I mean, if I'm his lawyer, I'm like
shuffling. You hear the papers shuffling. Like, here, look at this one.
And they were building land. It's a golf course.
I know. Yeah, here, see?
Oh my God! Here, look at this one. And then you hear those idiots laughing. And saying, wow.
The transcript is one thing, but hearing it was
something else again.
Reporter? Who was that reporter? Are we taking bets?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know who it was. I thought it was the ghostwriter for somebody's book or something.
Yeah. Oh, maybe.
It was an interview for Mark Meadows' memoir.
Oh, right.
Oh,
okay. So it was the ghostwriter for his ghostwriter, because he didn't write his own book.
You don't think? You don't think Mark Meadows is like a literary genius?
No, and you know that it's mostly lies. And
I mean, it'd sort of be like Jim Jordan writing his book, There
was a good court decision in the Ohio case.
Yeah.
Wasn't there?
They can go ahead and and try
Yeah.
on the sexual abuse
Yep.
at the university where Jim Jordan was a wrestling coach.
Yeah.
And didn't see a thing, didn't know a thing, didn't hear a thing.
No.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and there's another court case in Ohio. I don't know if anybody was following it. We were a little bit because we know people in Ohio. The Speaker of the House in Ohio was convicted on bribery charges, right?
Yeah.
And if you read the whole why he was convicted, it's really gross. I mean, they gave him money to elect Republicans, this company, and he gets Republicans elected, gets himself elected Speaker of the House, and then votes in a $6 billion project for this company that gave the money to elect the Republicans. I mean, it's and some of the quotes that the judge was just pissed when he sentenced him, but he sentenced him to 20 years.
That's
20
good.
years. The Ohio Speaker of the House, the Republican.
Good.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I feel like, okay, good. This is good. We're setting a precedent here. We can do this with other Republicans who are corrupt, right? Yes, let's do that. We don't have to give them light sentences. They can give them everything they earn. But and the judge read some of the quotes from this guy who's standing in court, by the way, saying, "I love my family. I don't think they can live without me. Blah blah blah."
Not they can't live without you.
Not one word of remorse. You know, it's all stacked against me. Blah blah blah, and everything. And the judge is like, "I'm over it." And he starts reading quotes from this guy, like the things that he was saying. You know, will fuck up their families if they don't, go along with this stuff like that. And, the judge is like, you just tried to wreck democracy. 20 years.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
That is.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. More like that, please.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway, so, I feel like some people have flipped on the January 6th stuff.
Yeah.
Do you think Rudy Giuliani flipped?
I think he might have tried.
He doesn't want to go to jail. He was right in the middle of all of it.
So some people I've listened to said, he's a congenital liar. He doesn't know how to do anything but lie. So even if he did proper, it's probably not going to be anything that they want to use because he's such a liar. So, but it sounds like he's definitely trying at least to flip, or trying to play a game. I'm not sure which, but I do think there's been, I do think that there's other people that have flipped on him on the January 6th stuff. And the fake electors. Yeah. I mean, by the way, I saw a video yesterday that was done in December of 2020 where two of the fake electors were talking, basically making a full confession on video as to what they did.
Yeah.
Right. We tried to get into the Republicans locked us out. So we went over here and, we nominated our slate. I do too. And I found it again yesterday and and we, nominated our slate and, we're sending it off to Washington, D.C. and and everything. Wow. Meanwhile, John Eastman is having disbarment hearings because and I believe he'll be disbarred too. Yeah. And he's trying so hard to spin it now. Well, this was my belief that you could do, in other words, I just believed a thing so that if I believed I could get a new car, I'm going to believe really hard. I'm even going to clap my hands.
There's no place like home. There's no place like home.
No place like home. And there's no new car in my garage.
Please, I want
it. So, and Trump is trying this too. If you listen to, or you look at his Truth Social statements or when he makes statements and things, he's saying, well, I believed that the election was rigged. So now he's switched it from the election was rigged to I believe the election was rigged and everything, which is not going to matter because what he did was just, I mean, listen, if the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers are seditious conspirators,
right,
then he is absolutely a seditious conspirator. No question.
Leader. He was the head of the
He was the leader. He was the head of the snake.
Yep. Yep. And it scares me how many people are still in his cult. But in the end, it's about 30%. 30%. It's not, we hear a lot about them because they're noisy and they're obnoxious and,
They're violent.
and everything. Yeah.
And
But
every time I
it's
see a
about
goddamn
30%.
poll, I want to punch a wall.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so tight, and oh my gosh, and between Trump and Biden is 49 and 49.
Think the country's on the wrong track, and you don't ask why they think that.
Yeah. Half of us think we're on the wrong track because the fucking Supreme Court just struck down marriage equality or just struck down rights for LGBTQ people, and just and because there's
abortion rights, all those things.
Rights. And there's a lot of reasons why we think it's on the wrong track. Don't blame it on Biden.
Right, exactly. And by the way, I will say this, ABC News is basically giving Rasmussen until the end of the day today to disclose their relationships with Steve Bannon and Breitbart and some of these other places.
No
and
way.
If they don't, they're yanking them out of the average. And they should have done that forever ago. Ago. Rasmussen should never be included in any national average. But so ABC News is basically choosing them out on it. We'll see what happens.
Good for them.
About time.
Yeah.
But,
I agree.
But the danger from the cult continues. I found it very disturbing, this guy that was arrested yesterday.
Oh, yeah, by Obama's house.
400 rounds and materials to make Molotov cocktails.
Yeah. So, and apparently he's been charged with trespassing. I roll.
That's
and referred to mental health services. So maybe mentally ill. I'm guessing maybe.
I'm guessing
I don't think so. I mean, my feeling is that a lot of these cultists are mentally ill. Yes. But the problem is they function in society and they get to buy ammunition and they get to threaten people, that are in public office or held public office in the past. And that's a problem. It really is.
Because again, the same people that are fine with mentally ill people having access to these guns and 400 rounds of ammunition are the same people who will not fund mental health services.
Right.
So, let's get our fucking house in order. Right now, let's restrict gun access and increase access to mental health services.
That would be logical, but there is nothing logical about this period in our time.
Yeah, there isn't. I mean, I was just thinking the other day about the fact that so much of what I grew up as a young adult, at least, with is and took for granted, right, is being taken away.
Destroyed, totally destroyed.
Yeah. And I feel like for LGBTQ people, especially who endured the HIV/AIDS, virus with no help from government. In fact, wouldn't even acknowledge, that it was real. It took Rock Hudson for Nancy Reagan and Ronald Reagan to acknowledge even that it existed.
And even then, they never talked to him again.
And they came out of that and they fought for their rights and they fought for their rights and they fought for their rights and they finally got the right to marry and, to not be discriminated against and to, live a life that's
be fully
it's like the rest of us.
To American society like they should be.
Right. And now that's being taken away. Why? Because culture wars, basically. It's just, I don't know. It's awful. It's just awful.
I don't even know if the movie or if it's a movie or a series, but I watched it a million years ago when it came out. But it was on HBO called "And the Band Played On."
Yes, it was a book.
Yeah.
And then they turned it into a miniseries.
It was a miniseries, and that really illustrated how fucking criminally negligent the Reagan administration was.
Yeah.
Throughout the entire unfolding of the AIDS crisis. And Yeah, just
negligent. Yes. I mean, and I would argue it was willful negligence. It
yeah.
wasn't, it wasn't just, oh, this is ignorance or whatever. They
Oh
knew.
no, it was
They
willful.
just didn't give a shit about gay people.
Yep.
And so, in their minds, it was like, well, they're getting what they deserve.
Right.
It's
And it didn't benefit them politically to say anything.
and
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's
I mean,
poor people and gay people, so we don't care.
Right.
right. Right. And, it's interesting. They today, coming back to the Supreme Court for a minute, the two decisions that they released today were the student loans and the LGBTQ, right?
Right.
And I'm sure, I haven't looked, but I'm sure that everybody is more on fire right now about the student loans because so many people are affected by that instantly. And I got a text basically saying, I'm pissed by my daughter actually, who said, I'm pissed off about the fact that people are more upset about student loans being killed than they are about LGBTQ people being discriminated against. And I said, well, one is tangible, right? It's visceral. They are now on the hook for $20,000 they thought was going to be forgiven, 10 or 20. The other one is not. It has to be driven home.
Right.
And I guess it's going to be on us, on our culture, on us, on all of us to make sure we do drive that home because it's just a question of who they target next.
Yeah, we have to look at all of these bad decisions as a package.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to remind people that it doesn't stay limited to the little area that they ruled on, that can be built upon.
Right.
So Dobbs can also mean the end of gay marriage. It can mean the end of contraception. It can be the end of interracial marriage.
Mm-hmm.
It's the end of your right to privacy. And that's, we have to be realistic about it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Thomas even...
He did.
He even said he
wants to revisit
interracial marriage is on the chopping block. It's up for,
he's got his billionaire friends protecting him.
Right. What does he care?
Right.
Yeah.
And one of the best tweets I saw today was somebody who said, okay, well, if you're going to not forgive student debt, then can they at least have a billionaire to take care of them like the Supreme Court justices do?
Each of these people in there are a billionaire. And there's your solution. We only have a couple of minutes left. The hour goes by quickly when the news cycle is crazy.
It is.
It has been crazy this week.
Are you watching The Bear? Is anybody watching The Bear but me? Yes, me too. It's really good. It's amazing.
Really good. We're almost done. We have a couple more episodes, 2 or 3 more episodes left.
I just watched episode 6 and that left me like on the floor. So I need
it was so stressful.
Jamie Lee Curtis needs to win something for that episode.
She absolutely does. Yeah. Jamie Lee Curtis needs to win something.
Well,
not to spoil who all the...
No, we don't have to say who she is or whatever. She just is in that one, and she
all the other guest stars. But this season has just the most unbelievable guest star lineup. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, I need to get to that, but
it's tremendous viewing. It's really great.
That's good. No, I've just been. I hate to say it. I hate to admit I've been watching and just like that because why do
you hate to say it?
Because I loved Sex in the City, even now, even with all the problems. So I've been enjoying that. It's my hate watch. It's good.
Your guilty pleasure.
Yeah. Can it be hate watching if it's good? I think if it's good, it's not hate watching.
If you're enjoying it, that's not hate watching.
It's issues. Anyway, have a wonderful Independence Day, you guys. And
yes,
that's our show for this week. Join us next time on YouTube, momocrats.buzzsprout.com, or on your favorite podcast service such as iTunes, Google, and Amazon Music. And be sure to check our Facebook page for updates. I'm Donna Schwartz Mills, along with Karoli and Aliza Worthington. And we're saying goodbye for the Momocrats. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Freedom. Bye.
MOMochat is part of the Demcast family of podcasts.